meeting is now being recorded.
Welcome to the 2016 Cheer webinar. Today we're going to go over the rules for competition. You'll have a chance to ask questions. First, thank you for joining us. Be sure to mute your phone in order to eliminate static interference. If you have a question, there is a Q&A portion at the top of your screen that you can type your question, and as we get to question and answer sessions, we'll be able to read those questions and answer them out loud. You may also use the chat feature down at the bottom left of your screen to participate in the conversation. I first want to introduce myself. I'm Dina Williams, the Fine Arts Director for TAPPS. I'm in charge of the cheer and dance, drumline, one-act play, some music, and art and academic things. If you have any questions regarding basic TAPPS Fine Arts information, you can email me. Today we have with us some cheer committee members. We have Sean from and Amber from Geneva School. We also have Spirit Celebration joining us today. We have
Billy Smith, Chris Henson,
Wendy Hughes, Lisa Day.
And we are thankful that they're here. I'd like to put a shout out to our partners, Spirit Celebration. They sponsor and host our event for us. We are so very fortunate to have them as a part of our team. Rebel Athletics is our official uniform vendor, and Infinity is shoes, official shoes. You can get their information off our website. The way to stay the most updated with our information is through the TAPPS website. You'll find our most current information. There's a link to our rules as well as our championship information. There's also a link there. To go to the website, it's www.tapps.biz. You'll click on the Fine Arts link and then click on Cheer, and then you'll see all the links for that. For TAPPSter, that is where we have our faculty and student profiles. Please update your own faculty profile. If you're not listed in TAPPSter as the cheer director, you will not be in the loop when we send out information. So it is very important that you do that now and not wait until time to register your students. You can ask your athletic director, your fine arts director, or your head admin to update your profile. Be sure to have an updated email address as well as a cell phone. Lots of times I'm trying to contact coaches outside of school hours. And then as well, make sure you're listed as the cheer coach. You have to designate a head coach, and then you can enter in your assistant coaches as well. TAPPSter is also used to take our scoped testing. When you log in, you'll click the testing link and it'll show you the eligibility test as well as your acknowledgement of rules. You'll need to make sure that's completed in order to start submitting your eligibility forms and students. The eligibility forms will be generated off of your student profiles, so before you submit that, you need to edit your student profiles to include all your cheer students. And then when the deadline comes, it'll be time to submit your roster. The roster is different from the eligibility form, in which on your eligibility form you would list all 50 of your cheer squad, but on your roster you will simply choose the people that you are actually competing with the cheer championship. We'll go over more of that later. Right now we're going to start going over the rules. The rules can be found at tapps.biz. You can click governance for all of the TAPPS rules. But the cheer rules can also be found at the Fine Arts cheer page. If you want to take a look at those, we'll just go right through them. Based on the last 2 years of competition, we had our squads divided by school size one year, and then we had squad size last year. We have grown so much, so now we want to expand our divisions. This year we're going to have 4 cheer divisions, 2 for large schools and 2 for small schools. For Division 1, it's 4, 5, and 6A schools. A small squad is 16 or less, and a large squad is 17 or more. For Division 2, the school classifications are 1, 2, and 3A. Small squads are 10 or less members, and large squad is 11 or more. Now, we do reserve the right to split once we get the entries in, to split or combine those subdivisions based on the number of entries. What we don't want is 30 teams in one division and only 5 or 6 in the other. That way, it's an even playing field, and we're able to award a better balance of champions. Okay, the practice guidelines. Although cheer competition is a team activity for TAPPS purposes, these guidelines will be enforced. Cheer is a fine arts activity. Cheer squads are not subject to fall dead week, so most of you had cheer practice a couple weeks ago when the football team could not practice. That was nice. There is no start and date for practices, so you can begin practicing now, even though the activity is not until December. This last section D is actually going to be removed, so ignore that. That's a sport rule. Eligibility to compete. The TAPPS cheer competition is an open qualifier. Schools in good standing and having paid the entry and event fee will be eligible to compete. You do have to indicate that on your member contract, and you could do that by talking to your head admin, athletic, or fine arts director to make sure cheer is added to your contract. Those are due September 1st. The cheer competition is in the fall, as listed on the calendar, which this year is December 8th and 9th. And the teams will compete on both days for combined score. Now, one question that came up last year is cheer co-ed, and yes, it is. You can have male or female students competing in the cheer championship. Coach eligibility. Coaches must be registered in TAPPS and listed on the cheer roster, and you must complete the TAPPS scope testing program and the acknowledgement of rules. And we will make sure those tests are up to date by next week. Part of that is the health and safety guidelines as well. Student eligibility. Students must be entered in TAPPS. They must be included on the cheer eligibility form and included in the cheer roster. And they have to be academically eligible according to Article 5 of our Constitution, which is they cannot be 19 as of September 1st, and they cannot have been in high school for 4 years. Students not yet in high school may not compete in the TAPPS championship competition. However, they can compete in your pep squads, basketball games, whatever you have outside of this TAPPS cheer championship. We did talk about offering something to junior high and JV teams, and that is still an opportunity that we're pursuing. However, it will not be part of the actual cheer championship, awarding the championship. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, so back once again, if you have a question, you can type it in the question and answer, and we'll answer it out loud. The question so right now is having problems with sound. You need to make sure that you have called in, allowed the system to call your phone and have your phone available. There is also a link on the TAPPS website, the post that we sent out this morning in order to get on the site. There's a number you can actually call in yourself and enter in the codes listed there. Okay, moving on. Championship competition rules. The rules for our cheer championship are governed by the National Federation of State High School Associations, the NFHS, Spirit Rules for the current year. They were not posted last week, so hopefully they'll be posted, the new rules. Make sure you're getting the 2016-2017 rule book, not 15-16. Cheer divisions will have a committee, which we have some members here today joining us, and the committee reviews the rules and the procedures and any appeals, and they submit recommendations to our TAPPS Fine Arts Executive Committee. We will have cheer elections for this committee again in January for next year. If you're interested in serving on the committee, just let me know. Coaching. A maximum of 3 coaches are allowed to enter the warm-up area and the coaching competition floor. Eligible coaches will be issued a coaching pass, and that shall be worn and visible during the performances. Coaches may not use electronic equipment once they've checked into the competition warm-up area, with the exception if you're using it to play back your music. If it happens to be your phone, you may not be on the phone. Your phone could be used for playing back music only. Coaches must remain in the designated coaching areas during the warm-ups and the competitions, and coaches should limit coaching to encouragement and assistance while coaching in the competition area. And sportsmanlike conduct will be met with a penalty not limited to disqualification of any competitor or coach who is in violation. Okay, substitutions. When you register your roster by the deadline in TAPPS, you will choose students off your eligibility list. When it comes down to actually submitting your roster for competition, you'll be choosing the students who will actually compete at the competition. At that point, when your squad is registered, the number of students registered on the roster will be the number of students that determine your squad size. After that deadline, no additional personnel may be added to the contest roster. That will increase your squad numbers. Substitutions can be made. So if you have a student that is unable to perform, you can substitute with a different student who is, if they're listed on the eligibility form. However, you'll not be able to add additional students. So after the deadline, if a squad member is not able to perform, and you have no eligible substitute, the cheer squad will have to still compete in the same subdivision as a registered, regardless of the number of students actually performing. Competitors' apparel. Team uniforms will be in compliance with the NFHS Spirit rules. We do not allow bare midriffs in the TAPPS competition. That does not include if you were to have a mesh like nude color material in that section. We just can't see skin. We don't want to see skin. No jewelry is allowed in the warm-up or the performance. For content. For movements, they shall be in keeping with the school and TAPPS standards. They should not be sexually suggestive. Your cheers need to be positive in nature, and your music should not contain inappropriate or suggestive language. Music with inappropriate language removed, muted, or dubbed over shall not be allowed, and TAPPS is the final authority in determining that music acceptability. And then signs shall not be antagonistic or negative. We'll get back to some of the music questions that you might have when we get to the music portion of the competition. Video recordings, electronic capture of the performance is prohibited. Prohibition includes the use but not limited to cameras, video cameras, tablets, cell phones, or other similar devices. TAPPS shall be the final authority in determining the compliance with this rule, which applies to, but not limited to, the competitors, the coaches, managers, family members, and fans. We did talk about having a designated area for each school to designate one representative to video capture your performance so that you can show it to your team only. We are still working on the details of that. At this time, we are not able to say that is available. We're still checking on our contract with the network that streams our competition. Auxiliary equipment. Appropriate equipment may be used, including but not limited to palms and signs, banners, flags, and megaphones. All NFHS rules for sign usage will apply, and you cannot throw them off of the performance floor during competition. Point deductions will be enforced for littering or damaging the performance area, so no glitter or confetti. We want to keep it clean for the next group. A mascot will be counted as a member of the squad and listed on the eligibility form and cheer roster. Spotters. TAPPS does not provide spotters. You can have up to 5 additional students. Up to 5 additional students may be used for spotters. They must be included on the eligibility form and listed on the cheer roster. They shall dress in black shirts with no emblems and do not have to have the identical uniform. They may not perform jumps or tumbling, use any equipment included but not limited to the signs, props, palms, and megaphones. And just for clarification, the spotters do not count towards your squad size. They are on the eligibility form, but they are listed as a spotter and not as a cheer member. For the warm-up, Warm-up times are assigned based on the competition schedule. Tosses are not permitted outside the warm-up areas, and fans are not allowed in the warm-up areas. The warm-up area will be a marley floor, 40 by 40.
That's just for the
Okay, just kidding.
42 by 54.
42 by 54, is it marley? Mat. Carpet bonded foam mat. We'll adjust those rules. For the performance, each squad is going to perform twice. That's really exciting. So y'all get to do it again. For day one, round one, it'll account for 50% of your overall score. As far as performance order, it will be random. On day two, you will perform again for another 50% of the overall score, and your performance order will be determined by day one's ranks. The lowest ranks will perform first, and the highest ranks last. As far as the rules for the routine, your time limits are 1 minute and 30 seconds minimum for your routine, with a 2 minute 30-second max for the routine. Your maximum for music is 1 minute and 30 seconds. For the start of the routine, prior to starting your time, the announcer will say, "Judges, are you ready?" and will confirm, and then, "Captain, are you ready?" and your captain will confirm that you're ready. And then time will begin with the first movement or the first note, whichever comes first. Time shall end at a freeze or if an exit is part of your routine when the last squad member exits the performance mat.
That part
Comment?
is really awkward for
Okay,
cheer.
for cheer.
I do think it needs to say time shall end at the freeze or end of the music. I don't think exiting the floor is critical.
Okay.
Because they don't need to be timed. It's going to cause a franticness to get off the floor after a pyramid. If they're up in a stunt and they've only got 6 seconds to get off, they're going to be really unsafe on dismounting and running. So I would like to take that out.
Okay. Time shall be at freeze or
End of music.
End of music. Edit. Okay, so time shall end at freeze or last note.
Correct. If they were ending in a cheer, it would be the last movement or freeze.
No.
I mean, you may want to put instead of freeze, time shall end at last movement or end of music.
Last.
I think freeze is.
Okay, that's great.
Okay.
Okay, time shall end at last note or last movement.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, for music. Music must be provided by the school. Schools must provide personnel to begin and end the music. TAPPS personnel will not be responsible for playing the music for the competition. This competition area is 42 by 54 mat.
Correct.
The out of bounds is any part of the body touching outside the mat. Is that relevant?
Yes. If you're doing a sign section, your kids cannot touch and set the signs down outside the mat. They can toss them outside the mat, but they can't touch the ground outside the mat. It's not been a big factor, but we want to make everybody aware of that, just that the mat is the boundary. I'd like to back up 1 second for all you cheer coaches to the music section. There was a big announcement made by varsity this spring, which has been a lot of questions about the music laws in the United States. At this point, I don't want you to worry about anything. Spirit Celebration is meeting with 50 event producers this weekend with the lawyers to figure out exactly how this applies to cheer performances that are not on TV. So ASCAP, BMI, all the music laws, don't worry about it right now. We will send out an update, and we'll also send you a list of music providers. If this is a law that we do have to abide by this year, we'll give everybody basically a transition period. So don't get excited about this. You've heard a lot from varsity about it. People going to varsity events must use these music providers that have their ASCAP and BMI license. Spirit Celebration has already bought ours as an event producer, and we're producing your event. Also, the DJ who's going to be hosting the music already has their license. So So at this point, don't worry about it. If we have a further update after this meeting this weekend, we will let you know. But at this point, don't worry about it.
Okay. For judging, judges shall be qualified to judge in the competition as determined by TAPPS, and this year we'll be using Spirit Celebration to help us hire those judges. The judging panel shall be used in the cheer competition. The judging panel shall consist of 3 performance judges, 1 safety judge, and 1 technique deduction judge. The scoring will be consistent with the current NFHS rulebook and the TAPPS scoring categories. For each round, the average of the 3 judges' scores will be taken, with point deductions subtracted from the average score as determined by the deduction judge and the safety judge. Ties for the individual rounds will not be broken, so after day 1, you'll be going into day 2 with a raw score. Ties are okay for day 1. And then after day 2, we'll get the overall score based on 50% of the performance score from day 1, 50% of the performance from day 2. If there is a tie overall with the overall score, first level of tiebreaker would be the highest crowd involvement score for round 2. If there is still a tie, we would look at least deductions for round 2. And if there is still a tie after that, we would take the highest overall execution score for round 2. The score sheets and judges' ranges, as well as the deduction rubrics, will be available to coaches prior to the competition date. We will take a moment to go over a few of those today. For the championship awards, the top 6 schools in each division, subdivision, will be recognized based on the overall score. Henderson Cup points will honor the top 6 champion schools as follows. You'll get 10 points for first place, second place 8, third 6, fourth 4, fifth 2, and sixth place 1. For individual awards, we do not have an individual skills competition, but we do have the all-state teams. Prior to your round 1 performance, the judges area will ask for a coach to come to the judges area to nominate your students for the all-state awards. We will have more information on how to submit those nominations prior to the competition. But the awards are for first team, second team, and all-state honorable mention. Okay, do we have any questions on the rules? I don't see them.
Does times start when they walk on the floor or when they start the cheer or music? It does not start when you walk on the floor. It will let you come out to the floor to get set up unless you start your cheer or chant and enter the floor. That's when your time would start. So the judges will look. If you're off the floor and you're starting your cheer or chant and enter the floor, it will start with that time. Or you can come on the floor and get set. And another question is, does the music all have to be in the same section, or can you break it up? It can be broken up. You can do some music, then your cheer, then end with music, or you can do all music, then all cheer, whatever you'd like. You have 1:30 music max out of 2:30 of the routine. Another question, is there a time limit when exiting the floor after your performance is over? No, we just took that out. We want there to be a very safe dismount out of any stunts or pyramids. So no, there is no time limit. We actually build in 90 seconds between routines. The routines go every 5 minutes. Routines are 2.5 minutes. So we have a 90 seconds built in. So it shouldn't be stressful to get off the floor in a safe manner to pick up any signs, palms, props that you brought. So it should be a very safe environment. Coaches would like to remind you that during your routine, you must have someone there to start and stop your music, but you almost have someone that's going to stand up by the judges that will be able to point out those individuals that you have nominated for the state all-team championship title, so that the judges on the stand know who that you have picked out, along with the people they're looking at over the 2 days. So you'll have to have 2 officials there, one by the judges and one at the music stand.
Okay, something in addition to the championship event that we're hosting, Billy does host a mascot
We're doing a mascot competition for the fun of it. This has nothing to do with your Henderson points at all. This is strictly for fun. We'll be handing out the medals for first, second, third. That's all they're going to get is a recognition. It will be a lot of fun for the audience. We'll have prelims on day one, and it'll be in a separate room that will be judged on a different time than your cheer performance. Do not stress about this at all. And then we'll announce the top 5, and we'll let them perform during our tabulation period before awards. The time limit will be 1 minute and 30 seconds. We encourage the whole routine to be to music. It's not required. All the props they want. It's going to be very laid back and fun. But if you do have a mascot, encourage them to participate.
Sounds great. Any other questions?
Last year, All-State was nominated by the judges. They just changed to the coaches nominating. Thank you so much, Candace. Yes, we're doing both types. The coaches will nominate, and Spirit Celebration judges will also be looking at individuals on the floor. So it's open to both nominations from you and from us. There is not a limit to the nominations, but we are asking, it will be on the TAPPS website, when you do nominate, if you submit a picture of the person that you're nominating. And those details will come in soon.
Any other questions about the rules?
Do your uniforms for cheer have to match exactly? No, they do not. We realize that some of you use junior varsity and varsity for this competition. Your uniforms do not have to match. Just remember, you can't have a midriff, which isn't a problem most types with TAPPS anyway, but just they do not have to match. Just remember, no jewelry of any type. And that's for cheer only. Dancers are allowed to wear jewelry this year.
Another question? Okay, we don't have any further questions at this time, so we are going to move on to our cheer rubric. If you printed off a rubric this morning after it was posted, I suggest you
grab a pen
for some edits, or you can go to the tapps.biz website and refresh your link. We're going to start with the score sheet and actually kind of do the score sheet along with the judges' ranges at the same time. So for the TAPPS score sheet, looks like this. Let's see. Okay, basically the score sheet is a 100-point scale. There's the difficulty level and the execution level, and I'm going to hand it over to someone else to talk about this.
How does it combine?
Just
give us an
overall view of what they need to be looking for, doing.
Sure. So when you're looking, if you will compare your rubric over to your score sheet, and you're going to see judges' ranges is what that's actually called. When you look in stunt difficulty, for example, and like Vina said, there's going to be an update to how those scores are. So, for example, in stunt difficulty, that now goes 0 to 2.1, and then the next one goes 2.2 to 4.1. So you'll notice that there'll be more consistency there. But what you need to take into consideration is that your ratio, so the number of athletes performing an actual skill, is taken into consideration in those ranges already. So kind of across the board for stunt difficulty, pyramid, actually not pyramid, stunt difficulty, tosses, tumbling, and jump, those will all be considered 50% plus 1 gives you majority. So if 50% of your athletes plus 1 are doing that skill, that will put you in the high range. That does not mean that you will score the highest score in that range, but that will put you in that range. So for example, if you look at stunt difficulty, if you have 10 athletes on your team, so you'd be considered a small, so that you're probably a 1A, 2A, or 3A team, and you have an extended one-leg stunt by only one person on that team, even though you could actually put up 2 stunts, you would not be in the high range because you don't have full participation. You don't have 50% plus 1. So for you to get all the way into that high range with 10 athletes, you need to put up 2 extended one-leg stunts to be able to get into there. Does anybody have any questions in regards to that?
committee have any clarification or anything that might help?
So if you kind of look down in those together, so you're going to notice when we jump back over to the score sheet, and we'll stick with stunts for a second. So we're talking about stunt difficulty. Remember, difficulty is really also taking into consideration your ratio. So always think 50% plus 1. So let's say we'll stick with the example of 10 athletes on your team. You put up 2 extended one-leg stunts. So you met the minimum ratio, so 2 stunts in the air. You're doing the hardest skill that's required. So you're in the range now at a 4-2. For you to get to that 5, now we're going to take into consideration also part of that execution. So how well did you execute those skills? So all of that plays in addition to that. And that's where you get that total of 10 across the board.
Obviously, coaches, this is Billy, we're looking for safe stunts. We would rather have execution be better. So always think about your execution first and how much safer that makes everything. So don't put something up or do something that's not safe just to get the extra point. That's when people get hurt. So we're always pushing for execution to be strong. That's why you're getting so many points in execution. So think technique.
Yeah, we kind of would say, I would tell you to say, pick your poison. So for an example, if you do not have members on your team that are capable of doing extended one-legged stunts, then maybe you need to go into that one-leg variation at prep level. So put up 2 stunts that are one-leg variations. You're going to max it up at 4, and you're going to have perfect execution. So you might be able to score a 9 versus if you went into that high range and you got a 4-2, and then you got a 1 for your execution, you'd only be at a 5-2. So it doesn't really work up to your advantage to try to push the highest skill level if your kids are not capable of doing it because it's unsafe. It will not reward you points. Do what makes most sense for your team, and that's how you're going to be awarded points.
Even if you did a basic and you got just a 2-point in difficulty, but it was extremely executed well, you could score a 7. So we're trying to reward great technique. So, look at what you got on your squad, but realize technique is always going to score the highest. Any questions about that? If you have any questions, let us know. We'll just keep going until you send us something.
So if we're going to follow the score sheet and across from the rubric, we'll go to tosses next. So notice in tosses, there's going to be a small change. So basic straight ride, and then a variety of body position.
They see the
Oh, you do see it. Okay, great. So basic straight ride and a variety of body positions. So that could be a toe touch, a pike basket, a ball out, whatever. There's quite a few choices for you. That's going to put you in that 1 to 6, that 1.0 to 1.6 range.
Which is 2.
Oh, perfect. So there's an update on that. You can see that. I won't talk about the score for that. And then to move into the next highest range will be single twisting toss. 2 to 3 for that.
Coaches, we're trying to push you really hard on getting some beautiful straight ride tosses. When we say straight ride, that doesn't mean straight ride as in our legs are straight. It means that you're riding straight up without a twist, toe touches, pike open. What other ones, Lisa?
Pretty ladies.
Pretty ladies, ball out. So the higher the toss is what you're looking for when you're throwing tosses. So think pretty and high versus trying to twist something ugly and scoring. Because technique, again, a ride up with a beautiful toe touch has great technique. You're going to score really well.
I think that will make one point in case anyone's wondering is that this score sheet was created to reward schools for their ability. We know that many of your schools are mixed with your talent. You might not have a ton of kids to choose from, or maybe your school requires you to take every kid who signs up for the program. So we want to be able to offer you an opportunity to be competitive without restricting what you're able to do on the floor. So you'll be rewarded for your effort and not for the actual skill that's put out. So that's how the score sheet was created. So let's go ahead and we'll skip down to pyramids. When we look at pyramids, you can kind of see the ranges there, and they build as they go up. This is one of the categories that's not necessarily a 50% plus 1. As long as you are hitting the structures that are required inside the judge's rubric, then you'll be able to get into those ranges. This allows you a little flexibility in regards to places on your score sheet like crowd involvement, creativity, and showmanship. So it's going to allow you to be able to utilize athletes on your floor in a better way, and also not force you to maybe put up more difficult stunts for kids that can't actually execute those. So if you can't do a multi-layered pyramid, then hit what makes the most sense for your team, get your points, and move on from that skill set.
Coaches, remember, a pyramid is considered 2 stunts that touch. That's all it is, 2 stunts that touch. So consider that when you're choreographing or hiring a choreographer. It doesn't have to be some crazy over-the-top pyramid. As long as 2 stunts touch, it's considered a pyramid.
So let's move down to tumbling difficulty. You can see that this also builds in your first section. You have got cartwheels, round-offs, forward rolls, and backward rolls. So I think this will be a big point for everyone. Make sure that you put tumbling of some sort in your routine, or you will get a 0. Your squad needs to do something. The judges do not want to give you a 0 on your score sheet. So if your squad can only do forward rolls, have everyone do a forward roll and max out. That's your 50% plus 1. So go all the way to the top. So we're talking about cartwheels and round-offs are now a 0 to a 1. So if everyone just does a forward roll. 2.1. Sorry, 2.1. So just by you doing forward rolls as a team, as long as 50% plus 1 does that, you're guaranteed to get a 2.1. And then if you just have flawless technique, then you're going to get your execution points in addition to that.
No, I thought you went on the other side all the way down.
On the jump, I guess.
Oh, my fault. They can see the score.
You'll look at the scoring ranges, but the point is make sure that you are adding tumbling into your routine. Don't leave that blank just because you can't do back handsprings or higher level tumbling.
Once again, coaches, if you've only got forward rolls and you're in tumbling, okay, you scored a 2, but it was a great technique, you could score a 5. That gives you a 7 in tumbling. So, like again, this is set up to reward you for participation by your squad, so max out in your technique.
All right, let's go ahead and move down to jump difficulty. And this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. So consider the stuff that you're putting into your routine. And once again, make sure that you're working to the strengths of your team and not necessarily the score sheet. So you can see to score into the highest range, you have to do 3 jumps that are connected with a variety. So for example, that could be a whip, toe touch, and a pike. And then somewhere else in the routine, not necessarily in that section, but somewhere else in the routine, you do 1 additional jump. Remember that for you to score into the high range, you must be able to do all those 50% plus 1, not just one athlete performing that's amazing at their jump. So that's how you're kind of score to the high range for that.
Do we have any questions?
Coaches, I think the question is going to be if you had other people, if you did not meet the 50 plus 1, how is that scored? That is all down in the bottom of your score sheet under creativity. That's the only place the judges can put it, that you're doing another stunt sequence, but only one group's going up. You're doing another jump, but only your girl in front's doing it, or a small percentage. You have another tumbler tumbling across the front. Remember, if it's below that 50 plus 1, it only can be scored in creativity.
So let's talk about motions. So you'll notice that that can lead up to 10. Motions are considered throughout the entire routine from beginning to end. In your cheer, whenever we're doing approaches for jumps, whenever we're dancing, everywhere in the routine, when your flyer's in the air, all those things are considered motions. When we talk about motions, and I'm going to kind of cross-reference motions into dance, a basic high V that holds static for 2 counts and then moves to a low V, those are going to be in the lower range. So when you look at difficulty, we're talking about things that don't move quickly. So anything that has and counts, so 1 and 2, and things that are moving at a quicker pace, or there's more intricate floor work, or we go from a basic motion and say we're crossing or we're circling our arms, or they're swinging around, or we're going to variations of a high V, so like a torch, a bow and arrow. Those are the motions that become more difficult. So once again, we want to remind you that if your team cannot perform quick, intricate moves, that's okay. Then do what you do best and collect it in your execution. Don't overthink your score sheet. So looking in the bottom when we talk about dance, that's a 0 to 5 for difficulty. So difficulty is going to be in a dance that you have multiple parts, that there's floor work, that there's multiple transitions. So let's say that you have a team of 20 and you're standing in 4 lines and your team never moves from those 4 lines and everyone does the exact same dance moves for 4-8 count, you will be in the low range for difficulty because you have no transition, you have no movement, and everyone's doing the exact same thing. So for you to be able to score in the high range, there needs to be more depth and levels to your dance. The same is also true for transitions, and transitions are considered throughout the entire routine. A transition means how we move from one section to another section, and is that seamless and flawless. So you have one girl on panel 1 and another girl on panel 9, and they just run across the floor to get to their next spot, or are you doing something creative to transition them? Are they tumbling? Are they rolling? Are they stunting to get to the next place? So consider how you're moving your athletes across the floor, and that's what we're talking about when we talk about transition.
Coaches, the biggest thing when you're hiring your choreographers or if you're doing it yourself on transition, this can be a killer because people don't think about, there's really 2 separate floors. Draw another line down the middle of your 9 panels, and you've got a right side and a left side. At no time can someone cross over from right side to left side unless they stop in the middle for 2 counts. If you'll think about that so that they cannot cross over that center line without stopping, it'll help you. Think about never, ever running in a routine on the floor. There shouldn't be somebody frantically trying to get across at any point. A common thread is that if they have to take more than 4 steps to get to the next thing, they're not in the right place. So think about your routine evolving so that it is a beautiful routine that flows really nice so that it becomes aesthetically wonderful for the judges to watch. 4-step count. If you'll teach your kids that rule, if they're going more than 4 steps, to let them like, hey, I'm going more than 4 steps here. See if it can be changed so that they're not going more than 4 steps. Your routine will evolve really pretty. Like Chris said, if you can tumble from space to space, it also helps in your transition because then you can go across half without just walking. In your dance moves, as a dancer, Lisa, they're looking at floor work, transitions. When you're scoring higher in dance, your feet and your hands or arms are moving at the same time, you're going to score higher than just your feet or just your arms. So hand and feet movement at the same time, along with what Chris said, levels, transitions, sharpness. Lisa, anything else on dance?
No, that was what I was going to say.
Okay, great. So we have a question. On the stunt section, can we pull down from a body position or must we pull down from 2 legs to maximize the difficulty score?
I think for that you're going to, so for ranges, for you to get in the high range, you're not required to do that. So twisting from 2-leg stunts put you in the range. Remember, we're really pushing safety. So in regards to are you allowed to do that, you will need to check with the NFHS rules to make sure you're within those guidelines. In regards to the score sheet, to get in the high range, you're twisting from 2 feet.
The reason we say that, y'all, their new rules are not out yet for the Federation. So we're not going to say yes and then they put out a rule you can't. Their new rules are not out yet. So in the past, yes, you could, but we're not going to say that because their rules aren't out yet. So I don't want to say yes or no until their rule book comes out.
One of the things I was going to say, Billy, is one of the things that we get a lot when the coaches come back up to us after they get legalities, penalty deductions, is they go, our choreographer that we hired said we could do that. One of the things you as a coach, it's your job to make sure you know those rules too. Don't just rely on who you hired because they don't always double check those rules because like we said, there's so many rules out there. So make sure you are looking at these rules when they all come out and make sure your routine is legal when it comes in to compete.
Lisa, I'm glad you said that. We are going to have a safety person that's on Spirit Celebration staff that will be available to all TAPPS cheer coaches. So if you've got a pyramid or something that you're questioning if it's legal or not, we'll have that information so that you can send them a video and they can look at it to tell you if it's legal or not legal before the event. We do that for all of our competitions.
question that we had in regards to twisting from 2 feet. So let's say if you go to the rules and NFHS says, yes, it is legal. So you've already met your high range. So if you want to be able to twist from an extended one leg set, then where you would potentially be able to collect those points is in creativity and showmanship. So I want to talk about that section for just a moment, and that is the best routines are when you meet the score sheet and then you do something that's different and more creative and innovative than what someone else is doing. So if you look at your score sheet and you're only doing exactly what's printed in black and white inside of your boxes, you're not going to score in the highest for creativity and showmanship. So consider that. So you need to match your NFHS rules, what the match things that you can do, even if it doesn't go on the score sheet. Consider safety, rules, and the rubric, and that's going to help you score correctly in creativity and showmanship.
I think from a judge's standpoint, your music has a whole lot to do with how it matches your routine. So whoever you're hiring to do your music, don't let it be crazy expensive. We've got a lot of people that can do that for you for a good price. But at the same time, your music should match your routine to enhance what you're doing while you're performing. So just going to keep that in mind. Remember, it's all working hand in hand to create this amazing event for your kids to be performing for the judges.
I think the last section on here that we haven't covered is crowd involvement. And this can be spread out throughout the entire routine. Whether you're using music or you're only in your cheer section, you're not necessarily limited to how you involve your crowd. Clearly, the easiest place to involve your crowd is in your cheer section. And that's when we talked about in your TAPPS bylaws, being able to use your props, signs, flags, banners, megaphones, pom-poms. And think about whenever you are working towards your crowd, it would just be like at a regular game. It doesn't have to be complicated. You're wanting to get the crowd involved. So you get them to yell at you. It's creative. There's things that are transitional. This is another good place where you can consider adding your stunts in as well. Those basic stunts that move across the floor that are able to get the crowd involved. I'll give you an example. Doing a full up to the top. It's not even on your score sheet. Don't even know if NFHS will allow you to do it. But that's not really a great place is in your cheer section to try to do full ups or try to do half ups. Those aren't the things that need to be happening in this section. You need to think when you're thinking about your cheer, you're thinking more sideline, and that it's easy for the crowd to follow what you're doing, and that's going to help get you in the top section for your crowd involvement.
Coaches, please remember, we don't expect you to have all a big crowd in the stand yelling back. It has nothing to do with anybody's yelling back from the seat. It does have to do with your rhythm as if you're at a game and could people yell back with you easily. So when you're figuring out if your cheer is something that people can actually yell back, have a bunch of people come in and listen to your cheer and see if they know when to yell back without you teaching them. And if they yell back correctly, you know, non-cheerleader people, if they yell back when they're supposed to yell back, then you've probably got a pretty good cheer. If they don't yell back when they're lost in the cheer, you probably don't have a good crowd involvement cheer. That's what judges look for. Is it easy for crowd participation? Once again, get very creative. This is a great place to score points in your crowd involvement and creativity and showmanship during all of that part with the signs. There's so many creative ways now that people are coming up with to do their school letters. Don't just limit yourself to the old-fashioned signs and flags and megaphones. There's a lot of creativity going on out there. Google all the NCAA college cheer, Google UCA college cheer, all those people that are using different kinds of props now that are very creative. Have fun with this. Make it fun so that your folks on your sidelines at your football game are really enjoying what you're doing, and it's going to be fun.
Okay, we'll make this agenda. I didn't realize it wasn't posted. We will make this agenda available on the TAPPS.biz website so that you can see what we're going through. But the handouts that you have, if you've asked about these handouts that we're going over, those are on the TAPPS.biz website. The score sheet is just go to TAPPS.biz, click Fine Arts, click Cheer, and then you'll see the rules link, a score sheet, and a judge's ranges.
From Spirit Celebration side, we want to say thank you to everyone that came to the meeting in January. You know, we were asked to do this. It'll be our third year. We're thrilled to be partners, but we're only hosting your event. So if you want to be involved, you've got to come to those meetings and get involved. And we're all, you know, you're volunteering your time for the betterment of your industry within your TAPPS organization. So we want to say thank you. This has been a great process, and we've gone a long way in establishing these guidelines for TAPPS. So I want to say thank you to all the committee members and anyone who had input. And again, just sending in suggestions. It's going to evolve, everyone. So how do you want it to evolve? Because we make changes every year based on what happened the year before, but this is a great start. In the past, you guys, we've done this on a Monday and Tuesday in Waco, and we had almost 4,000 people at the finals last year. I can promise you it's going to be a show in Arlington on December 8th and 9th. Get ready for a big crowd on that Friday night for the finals. So come prepared with your fans to put on a great show, and, you know, tell your fans to come prepared to yell and scream and cheer just like it's a game. It's going to be amazing atmosphere for your cheerleaders to get, you know, fan support. So come to Dallas and have a good time. It's the holiday season, so there's a lot going on in Dallas. So that Thursday night, I would try and plan something that you can bond with your team, go and do a Christmas activity in Dallas. There's a lot going on, and celebrate the holidays. So in the past, Spirit Celebration has always given every single TAPPS school a free competition that they could attend after TAPPS. You were always in October, and we said you can come. We've had a lot of schools come to events throughout the year. I'm going to let you guys know that you can do that starting with our first event. So if you want to get your routine on the floor before the TAPPS competition, we have 2 events that we would like to invite you to that would be free for you guys to at least come show your routines and, you know, get comfortable with the floor. We have the State Fair of Louisiana competition, which is on October the 29th in Shreveport. And we also have the Spirit Celebration Fall Championship, which is November the 12th. That's a Saturday. They're both Saturday events in Denton. Those are free to you to come get your routines on the floor. And then again, any competition we have throughout the year, you're welcome to come perform. We give everybody a freebie. So if you want to do it before state, get used to performing, know that you're invited.
Any other questions about the judges' ranges or score sheet? Okay. Once again, the best way to contact the TAPPS staff is through our TAPPS.biz website. Click the Contact Us link. That will actually create a help desk email that all our staff is able to see so we can direct it to the right person. Billy did say they would have their legal counsel person available to answer any of those legality questions. And then our cheer committee is also available to answer questions along the way. So if you need us, you know where to find us. Thanks for tuning in with us today, and we appreciate you being with us.